a daily. Remember now, we want to subtract the dates that they give you. So you're trying to figure out the exact number of days that you're looking at. And this is where some of you got confused the last time. If you get confused about, do I just subtract the numbers? Do I add a number at the end? You have to just go through and count if you really need to. Meaning, you're going to have this interest for a certain amount of days. And so, as it says up here, you're going to subtract the dates that they give you. If it's over several months, don't use the first date they give you as one of the days. So this means if it's like at the end of March and you're going into April, you don't count that first day in March. You would just count the rest of the days in March and then however many days you are in April. If they're in the same amount or if they're in the same month, then you're just going to take the two dates and subtract them. That makes sense to everybody? Okay? So, here's an example of using the table. All right. Letter A, on the bottom of page 179. It says, finding interest from April 6th to April 18th on $620 at 10%. So again, same month, I just take April and April, I take my 2 days that they give me and subtract them, and I get how many days? 12. Thank you. So, go up to your table. The first column is the number of days. Go down to 12 and over to 10%. And my decimal is 0.328, right? So take that decimal and multiply it by $620. But here's the key, and this is where a lot of people mess this part up. What does the table say? Interest on $100. So how much money did we have? $620, right? So in a sense, what they're asking you is, how many units of $100 did I have? 6.2, right? So essentially, whenever you do these problems, you're going to take the amount that they give you, in our case 620, and divide it by 100. Or essentially, they're asking you, how many hundreds do I have in 620? So I have 6.2 units of 100. So I would take my 6.2 times that decimal. What was it? And then whatever you get, that is going to be your interest. Now again, is it going to be a big number? No. Heck no. The only way this is going to be a big number is if this is a ginormous number. Right? We're talking about millions of dollars. It's the only time you're going to make any money. So, somebody do the math. $2.04. Okay? So again, not that big of a deal, but as we've said before, right? Better than not getting any money. Okay? So, look at B. Again, we're in the same month. The 7th through the 18th. So how many days do we get? 11. Okay? What was our amount? 910? Where did 910 come from? Oh, you said percent. This was 550?
Yes.
So again, I'm going to divide by 100. So I'm going to get 5.5 times. We had, what do we have? 17 days? 0.2863. 11 days. What did you say? 9.5%? So this is again from the table. And then our grand total was? And again, if you wonder what we're going to round to, in that case, we're going to always round to cents. So 2 places.
So I have a question.
Wait, I have an
So
answer.
like, the decimal's like 1.5746. Then would you like take
Just
the
1.57?
6 and round it up to 5?
No.
And then that would round up to 7 to 8.
So I'm only looking at the third decimal place. Okay. Any questions there? All right, turn the page. Now we gotta do some interesting math. All right, so here we go. Find the interest from May 1st to June 9th. How many days do we have?
36.
May has how many days?
30. Jeremy, February, March, April, May, 31. I don't know.
It does?
I think, wait, am I right?
June 36. March, April. Yeah.
Yeah,
38.
Say 38.
That's too hard. Did you subtract the 9? Subtract the 1?
Don't.
Okay,
9,
So- this is what is confusing in some of these problems. And I'm not gonna lie to you, because I get confused myself. Because what I told you up here is, when it was 2 different months, we're not going to use the first date. But then when they did this calculation from, what did I say? May 1st to June 9th, they include all of May, which is your 31 days, and then how many days in June? 9, so they would have gotten 40 days. But then in other times, they don't necessarily do that. So, I'll try to help you out in some of those cases. So, in this, we're going to use 40 days. All right? Now, what's the problem? If we have 40 days, what's the problem? When I turn back to my chart, I only have 31 days. Okay, so what do I do?
You do that and then you
Okay,
do
one, I could use the
nine
formula,
more days.
or, what?
I said you could use the 31 and then you use. the-
Right, so when I figure out the total number of days that I had, which is 40, this was C, wasn't it? I'm going to then figure out some combination of 40. I don't care what it is. I could do 30 and 10. I could do 20 and 20. I don't care. But then I'm going to figure out what the decimal is for each one of those and do the problem basically 2 times and add them together. Or, like in this, because I had 20, I could just figure out what this one is for 20 and whatever percentage they gave me, and then multiply it by 2, right? So it doesn't matter how you do it. If you want to make it complicated, obviously I can't do 35 and 5 because I still don't have 35 on my chart.
Yeah.
Okay? It just has to add up to 40.
Would they ever give you like 110 days or no?
It might. It might. Yep.
So if you have to split those days up, would you have to split the percent in half?
No, because these percentages are going to change. Like this to this, those 2 percentages are going to be way different. You know what I'm saying? And so you're using each individual percentage to figure out the amount for that period, but then you're doing it again. So your 30 and your 10 would be 2 different ones. So, again, now we're going to still use 10%. So what combination do you want to use? 20 and 20. So what was the 20 from the chart with 10%? So basically, I'm going to take this times 2, and then take that times, what was the amount of money we're investing? 1320, but what do I have to do to that?
Divided by 100.
Divided by 100, so again, basically, I'm just moving my decimal 2 places. So I'm going to take this times 13.2, and that should be my grand total then. So what'd you get?
14.46.
14.46, exactly right. Everybody good?
Wait, so if you do it like a different way, do you just add them?
Yeah, so if you did 30 and 10, you would figure out what 30 was, that whole process like we did right here, and then what 10 was, and then I would add those 2 together. Yep. All right, so let's try D. The interest from August 4th to October 5th. So, how many days in August? 31. So, August 4th through the 31st is how many days? 27. Right?
That take us so long.
27. What is September? How many days in September? 30. How many days in October to the 5th? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is where it is, right? In the other ones we said 5 minus 1 is 4. In this one right here, we counted both of the days in October. So this is where it's a little weird because when we're in October, we have to include that first day. And the ones where we started in April and ended in April, just like these, we're not really counting that day. That's where it gets a little confusing. So if it's a multiple month one, you have to count all the days. So we ended up with how many total days? 62. So again now, if we had 62 total days, this is where some of you will mess up just because you won't figure out how many days it is. Correctly. So again now, the easiest way for us to do this would be 31 days times 2, right?
Yes.
And if you're not going to use 31, then you'd actually have to do it 3 times, right? Because you don't have any other 2 numbers that would just add up together. All right? So did somebody finish, or do you want to finish? So again, we're just taking whatever the 31 is times 2 times whatever the amount was.
Say that for the last one for C, say that we use 30 and 10. Would you add those decimals?
Yes, sir.
You would.
So I would basically do this. I know this is 2 different problems, but I would have found this answer for 1, and then for 10 I would have found an answer and added those 2.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the answer?
$15.08
For C?
for D.
Let's see.
C was $14.46. Get that one?
I got 47.
Okay.
Where's the calculator?
All right, so here we go. Last thing for this section. Now we're going to actually try to figure out what our daily interest factor was. So in this case, you're just figuring out how much money you're making per day, in a sense. All right. So when you do this, notice the formula at the bottom of page 180. The daily interest factor is the principal times the rate divided by the number of days in a year. Okay, so the biggest thing here is now we're going back to our exact and our ordinary interest. Our exact interest we use how many days? 365. Our ordinary we use? Okay? So, exact versus ordinary is really important in this. But otherwise, we're using this little formula. Okay, so jump over to E on page 181. What is the daily interest factor for $600 borrowed at 18% exact interest? So what are we going to do? 600 over 365 equals?
Yeah.
I got 0.3. That's not right.
Anybody else?
Oh, 365. Oh,
0.29.
0.29. I'm an idiot.
Point.
2.59.
All right, so what does this really mean? This means that's how much I'm actually making per day. So roughly I'm making 30 cents a day.
What are you round to in there? 4?
I would say that one you can probably write the entire thing, unless they specifically ask you what to round to. Okay? So the difference between E and G then, the only difference is I have to figure out, so in G though, we're going to do what? In G, they are asking you find the ordinary interest on this. So in E and F, we're finding out how much we're making per day. In the last section, which is G and H, we're taking that number and then we're going to multiply it by the number of days in that cycle. So, look at letter G.
Would you look who it is?
Find the ordinary interest, so that's one thing that you have to take into consideration. From November 8th to November 22nd on $750 at 9% interest. So, G is, we're still going to use our 750. We're still going to make our fraction, 0.09 over, but this time we're going to use what? Because it said ordinary. Okay? So you're going to get a total there, and then you're going to multiply that by the number of days. So how many days are from November 8th to November 22nd? 14. So again, we just subtract those. And so you take whatever you make per day times the number of days to get you the total amount that you would make for that section. So they used 0.1875. So looking at the problems, it looks like you're going to always round this to 4 decimal places. I don't know why they stopped at 4 decimal places. They don't really say. That one only did. Did it? Does it? Okay. Perfect. So Jeff read the book. And so then this is my daily amount times 14 days. So my grand total was
2.625.
So then we'd say 2.63, right? Because that one we can round to dollars and cents. All right. Did you get it, Landon? All right. So see the difference between that first section and then this last section? So the last section you're asking for your grand total. The first section you're just asking for your daily amount. Make sense? Any questions on any of those sections? You want to see any of those again? All right, so quiz tomorrow over this section and promissory notes. Promissory notes again was what we did on Friday, and then that's basically just using I equals PRT again. Right? Bless you. Okay, so the rest of the time is yours.